Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! Boone carefully navigated the airport lobby, trembling as they took each step in their red pumps, the familiar click-clack echoing in their ears. They wore a pencil skirt, meticulously styled shoulder-length hair, and subtle makeup, a stark contrast to the Boone Wilson on their passport, who appeared clean-shaven with short brown hair. This public debut as themselves was a nerve-wracking milestone. Daphne, their chosen name, had rehearsed this moment endlessly, down to the pearl buttons on their blouse, a paradoxical shelter and exposure. Chicago's business trip would be the first flight, the first time among strangers, as their true self. Anxious and excited, they proceeded, palms sweaty on their suitcase, an extension of the nerves they felt being so unguarded. Her burgundy leather purse followed, containing all the carefully packed makeup that had taken hours to research and purchase online using private browsing windows. ID and boarding pass, please. The TSA agent, a middle-aged man with salt and pepper hair and a face that had long ago forgotten how to smile, held out his hand expectantly. Daphne passed over the documents with fingers that refused to stay steady. The agent looked at the passport photo, then at Daphne. Back to the passport. His eyebrows furrowed, creating deep valleys on his forehead.
Sir, this doesn't appear to be you.
The word sir struck like a physical blow. Daphne swallowed hard. It is me. I'm a crossdresser. The agent's eyes narrowed.
Step to the side, please.
The secondary screening area might as well have been a stage with spotlights. Daphne felt every eye in the vicinity burning into her back as the agent called over a supervisor. Her carefully applied foundation couldn't hide the heat rising to her cheeks. Is there a problem? The supervisor, a woman with tight blonde curls and an expression of practiced neutrality, approached. ID verification issue, the first agent muttered, handing over Daphne's passport. The supervisor studied the documents, then Daphne, with clinical precision. Mr. Wilson, can you explain the discrepancy between your appearance and your identification? Daphne drew a deep breath. The speech she'd rehearsed in her car seemed to evaporate. I'm traveling for business. I present as female sometimes. The ID is correct. That's me, just different presentation. We need to verify your identity. Please follow me. The private screening room was sterile and cold. Daphne perched on the edge of a metal chair while the supervisor asked questions about her identity, her reason for travel, her occupation. Each answer came out slightly shakier than the last. I'm a software consultant. My client meeting is tomorrow morning. I have my laptop and presentation materials in my carry-on. You can check them. The supervisor's face remained impassive. Why are you dressed this way for business travel? The question hung in the air. Daphne's hands twisted in her lap. Because this is who I am when I'm not pretending for everyone else. Something flickered across the supervisor's face. Recognition, perhaps, or simply professional acknowledgement. She made a note on her clipboard. Wait here. 20 excruciating minutes passed before the supervisor returned with Daphne's belongings. You're clear to proceed to your gate, Mr. Wilson. In the future, consider updating your identification to match your current appearance to avoid delays. Relief washed through Daphne's body, quickly followed by lingering humiliation. She gathered her belongings with as much dignity as she could muster. Thank you. The remainder of the journey through the terminal felt like walking through quicksand. The red pumps that had earlier made her feel elegant now seemed to announce her presence with each step. The navy blue pencil skirt that had seemed so professional in her hotel room mirror now felt like a target. At the gate, Daphne found a seat in the corner, away from curious eyes. She pulled out her phone, thumbs hovering over the screen, before typing a message to her only confidant. Airport security was a nightmare. They pulled me aside, questioned everything, feel sick. Carmen's response came almost immediately. Are you okay? Do you need to change before the flight? The question made Daphne pause. Change back into Boone's clothes? The men's slacks and button-down shirt were packed in her checked luggage, but even if they weren't, the thought of retreating, of stuffing Daphne back into the cramped box she'd lived in for years, made her chest constrict. No, I'm continuing as planned, but this can't happen again. The boarding process brought fresh anxiety. The gate agent looked from the boarding pass to Daphne's face with momentary confusion, but said nothing. On the plane, her seatmate, a businessman absorbed in his tablet, barely glanced at her. 2 hours of turbulent flight later, Daphne stepped into the Chicago O'Hare terminal with renewed determination. The humiliation at security had crystallized something that had been forming in her mind for months. This half-existence between worlds wasn't sustainable. Her hotel room offered blessed privacy. Daphne kicked off the red pumps, her feet aching after hours of unaccustomed confinement. She unzipped the pencil skirt and hung it carefully in the closet alongside the 3 other professional outfits she'd packed, all feminine, all carefully chosen for the business meetings ahead. Standing in front of the hotel bathroom mirror in her slip, Daphne studied her reflection. The brown hair fell in soft waves to her shoulders. A good wig, expensive enough to look natural. Her makeup remained surprisingly intact despite the stressful day. Beneath it all, Boone's features looked back at her, but softer somehow, as if Daphne had always been there, waiting. She reached for her phone and opened the browser, typing in Gender Affirming Care Chicago. The search returned dozens of results. Daphne bookmarked several, then closed the browser. Not tonight. Tonight was for recovery, for preparation. Tomorrow would bring the client meeting, another test of her resolve. Morning arrived with pale sunlight filtering through hotel curtains. Daphne's routine had been practiced countless times at home. Foundation, concealer, subtle contouring, mascara, a hint of eyeshadow, and lips painted a professional mauve. The brown wig was styled into a neat bob, professional yet feminine. For today, she selected a charcoal gray dress with 3/4 sleeves and modest heels in black patent leather. The client meeting was with a tech startup looking to overhaul their security protocols. Daphne had done her homework. She knew their systems inside and out. What she couldn't predict was their reaction to her. The company's offices occupied half a floor in a downtown high-rise. Modern, open concept, with glass and steel predominating. Daphne announced herself at reception. Daphne Wilson for the 10 o'clock with Marcus Fitzgerald. The receptionist checked her computer. I have a Boone Wilson scheduled. Heat crept up Daphne's neck. That's me. I go by Daphne. Understanding dawned in the receptionist's eyes. She handled it with professional grace. No problem at all. I'll update our records. Please have a seat. Someone will be out for you shortly. The meeting itself went better than Daphne had dared hope. Marcus Fitzgerald turned out to be a 30-something tech enthusiast, more concerned with Daphne's expertise than her appearance. His team asked insightful questions about the security proposal. 2 hours flew by in productive discussion. Your reputation precedes you, Marcus said as they wrapped up.
Your solutions are exactly what we've been looking for.
Thank you, Daphne replied, collecting her materials. I'll have the full proposal to you by the end of the week.
Great.
Marcus hesitated, then added,
And just so you know, we pride ourselves on being an inclusive workplace. If there's anything we can do to make our collaboration more comfortable for you, please don't hesitate to ask.
The simple acknowledgement nearly brought tears to Daphne's eyes. I appreciate that. Thank you. The 3-day business trip stretched into 5 as the client requested additional meetings. Each day, Daphne grew more comfortable in her professional persona. Each night, she researched gender-affirming care options, building a plan. On the return flight, she braced herself for another ordeal at security. This time, she arrived early, prepared a concise explanation, and carried a letter from her therapist explaining her gender expression, a precaution Carmen had suggested. The TSA agent, a different one this time, still looked confused when comparing her ID to her appearance. I'm transgender, Daphne said quietly but firmly. I'm in the process of transition. I have documentation if needed. The agent studied her for another moment, then nodded.
That won't be necessary. Have a safe flight.
The interaction, while still stressful, lacked the humiliation of the previous encounter. Progress, Daphne thought, but not enough. Back home, the apartment felt different. For years, it had been Boone's space, with Daphne emerging only in private moments. Now, looking around at the masculine furniture, the neutral decor, Daphne realized it no longer fit. Over the next week, subtle changes appeared. Throw pillows in muted blues and purples, a vase of fresh flowers on the coffee table, scented candles in the bathroom, small steps toward making the space hers. The business trip had broken something open, or perhaps healed something broken. Either way, there was no going back. Daphne scheduled an appointment with a gender therapist, Dr. Elaine Martinez, who came highly recommended in online support forums. Dr. Martinez's office was warm and inviting, with plants in every corner and art on the walls. The therapist herself was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes behind fashionable glasses. Tell me about yourself, she invited after the initial pleasantries. Daphne's hands twisted in her lap. A navy blue skirt today, paired with a cream blouse and sensible flats. I've been living a double life for years. Boone for the world, Daphne for myself. But recently, the walls between those lives started crumbling. What prompted the change? A business trip. I traveled as Daphne for the first time. It was terrifying and validating and humiliating all at once. She described the airport security incident, the client meetings, the growing certainty that she couldn't keep dividing herself in two. Dr. Martinez nodded.
Many people describe a tipping point, a moment when maintaining the division becomes more painful than facing the fear of integration.
That's exactly it. I'm tired of hiding. But I'm also scared of what comes next. That's completely natural. Transition isn't a single decision, but a series of choices. Some medical, some social, some legal. There's no one right path or timeline. They spent the hour discussing Daphne's feelings, her history, her hopes for the future. By the end, Daphne had a homework assignment. Journal daily about moments when she felt most authentic, and a follow-up appointment for the following week. The sessions with Dr. Martinez became a regular part of Daphne's life. So did presenting as female, first at home, then for quick errands, and eventually for social occasions with the few friends she trusted with her truth. Carmen, her oldest friend and first confidant, proved invaluable during those early months. A professional makeup artist, she offered practical advice, along with unwavering support. Your foundation is too yellow for your undertones. Carmen observed one evening as they prepared for dinner out. "Here, try this one." Daphne studied her reflection as Carmen applied the new product. "How do you always know exactly what I need?" "Years of experience," Carmen replied with a grin. "Plus, I pay attention. Speaking of which, have you thought about what you want to do about your hair?" The brown wig, while good quality, wasn't ideal for everyday wear. "I've been researching options. Extensions, maybe, until my natural hair grows out more." "Smart. And have you made any decisions about hormones?" Daphne nodded. "I have an appointment next month with an endocrinologist Dr. Martinez recommended. We'll discuss options then." "I'm proud of you, you know that." Carmen squeezed her shoulder. "You've come so far in just a few months." Had it only been months? Sometimes it felt like Daphne had always been here, living this authentic life. Other times, the newness of it all overwhelmed her, like when she had to explain to clients why their consultant now had a different name and appearance, or when she ran into old acquaintances at the grocery store. Most people were accepting, or at least polite. Some relationships faded away. A few new ones blossomed with people who knew only Daphne, never Boone. The endocrinologist, Dr. Patel, was a soft-spoken woman with efficient movements and a direct manner that Daphne appreciated. "Hormone replacement therapy is a significant step," Dr. Patel explained, after reviewing Daphne's medical history and performing a physical exam. "It will cause both reversible and irreversible changes to your body. We need to discuss all potential effects before proceeding." They spent an hour going through the changes HRT would likely bring: redistribution of body fat, decreased muscle mass, softer skin, breast development, and eventually, reduced fertility. Take this information home. Think about it. Discuss it with your therapist. If you decide to proceed, we'll do baseline blood work and discuss dosage options. Daphne didn't need time to think. She'd been researching hormone therapy for months, but she appreciated the doctor's thoroughness. "I'm certain this is right for me. I've felt like I've been living in the wrong body for as long as I can remember." Dr. Patel nodded. "Many of my patients express similar feelings. Still, I ask everyone to take at least a week to review the information. It's an important decision that shouldn't be rushed, even when you're certain." A week later, Daphne began hormone therapy. The changes came slowly, so slowly that daily observation revealed nothing. But comparing photos from month to month told a different story. Subtle softening of her face, small but definite breast development, skin that seemed to glow with a newfound smoothness. 6 months into her transition, Daphne faced another business trip, this time to Boston for a tech conference where she was scheduled to speak. Despite her growing confidence, the memory of that first airport security experience still haunted her. "I think it's time," she told Dr. Martinez during their session. "I need to update my legal documents." "Walk me through your thinking," the therapist prompted. "Practically speaking, traveling and doing business would be easier with ID that matches my appearance. But it's more than that. It feels like the final acknowledgement that this isn't temporary. That Daphne isn't a costume I put on and take off. She's me." The process of legally changing her name and gender marker proved to be a bureaucratic maze of paperwork, court appearances, and visits to various government offices. But 4 months later, Daphne held a new driver's license in her hands. The photo showed a woman with shoulder-length brown hair, subtle makeup, and a genuine smile. The name read Daphne Eleanor Wilson. The passport came next, then updated bank accounts, credit cards, and professional certifications. With each document that recognized her true identity, another piece of Boone's life faded away. The Boston conference coincided with the 1-year anniversary of that first fateful business trip. Daphne packed her suitcase with professional attire, a burgundy dress for her presentation, navy blue slacks and blouses for the workshops, comfortable yet stylish shoes for the long days of networking. The airport security experience couldn't have been more different. Her ID matched her appearance. The TSA agent barely glanced at her as she moved through the checkpoint. No secondary screening, no humiliating questions, no need to explain herself to strangers. As Daphne reclaimed her belongings on the other side of security, she found herself blinking back unexpected tears. Such a small thing, being treated like any other traveler, and yet it represented everything she'd fought for over the past year. The conference itself was a professional triumph. Her presentation on emerging cybersecurity threats drew a standing-room-only crowd. Colleagues who had known her for years as Boone adapted to Daphne with varying degrees of awkwardness but uniform respect for her expertise. On the final evening, at a rooftop reception overlooking Boston Harbor, Daphne found herself in conversation with the conference organizer, a woman named Rebecca, who had been in the tech industry for decades. "Your presentation was brilliant," Rebecca said, clinking her wine glass against Daphne's. "We'd love to have you back next year." "I'd be honored," Daphne replied. Rebecca hesitated, then added, "I hope you don't mind my saying this, but you seem so much more confident than when I met you at the Seattle conference 3 years ago." Daphne smiled, remembering that event, presenting as Boone, constantly uncomfortable in an ill-fitting suit, hiding behind technical jargon to avoid genuine connection. "I am more confident. I'm finally living as my authentic self." Rebecca nodded. "It shows, not just in your presentation style, but in how you engage with everyone. You're a natural leader, Daphne." The compliment warmed her. "Thank you. It's been a journey." "The best ones always are." Rebecca glanced toward the bar. "Excuse me, I need to check on the catering situation, but let's talk tomorrow about next year's program." Alone for a moment, Daphne moved to the edge of the rooftop, gazing out at the harbor lights reflecting on the dark water. A year ago, she had been trembling in an airport security line, terrified of being seen, yet desperate for recognition. Now she stood beneath open sky, fully visible, fully herself. Her phone buzzed with a text from Carmen. "How did the presentation go? Knock their socks off?" Daphne smiled and typed back, "Better than I could have imagined. Everything is better than I imagined." And it was true. The path hadn't been easy. There had been painful moments, losses, obstacles, but standing here now, in a body that felt increasingly right, with a name that resonated in her soul, with work she loved and people who saw her for who she truly was, it was better than anything Boone had ever dared to imagine. The return flight home brought none of the anxiety of that first trip. Daphne moved through the airport with the confident stride of someone who belonged exactly where she was. The navy blue pencil skirt and white blouse she wore, an unconscious echo of that first journey, now felt like a second skin rather than a costume. At home, she unpacked methodically, hanging the burgundy dress and navy slacks in a closet that contained only women's clothing now. Boone's wardrobe had been donated months ago, the last physical remnants of a life that increasingly felt like a half-remembered dream. As she placed her toiletry bag on the bathroom counter, Daphne caught sight of her reflection. The brown hair had grown out beautifully, now falling past her shoulders in natural waves. Her face, softened by a year of hormone therapy, looked back at her with clear eyes and a relaxed expression that once would have seemed impossible. The airport security incident that had once felt like the most humiliating moment of her life had transformed in retrospect into a catalyst, the push she needed to claim her true self. Sometimes the most painful moments contained unexpected gifts. Daphne's phone rang, interrupting her reflection. The caller ID showed her mother's name, a relationship that had weathered the storm of her transition with unexpected resilience. "Hi, Mom." "Welcome home, sweetheart. How was Boston?" "Wonderful. My presentation was well received, and I made some good connections for future projects." "I never doubted you would," her mother said, with the unwavering confidence that had sustained Daphne through the hardest days. "Are we still on for dinner Sunday? I'm making your favorite lasagna." "Wouldn't miss it." After ending the call, Daphne settled onto her couch with a contented sigh. The apartment around her reflected the changes of the past year, now decorated in blues and purples with touches of silver, comfortable yet elegant, just like her. On the coffee table lay a journal, the one Dr. Martinez had suggested at their first session. Daphne opened it to a blank page and began to write. "1 year ago today, I stood in an airport security line, terrified of being seen. Today, I stand in my truth, grateful to be recognized. The journey continues, but for the first time, I'm not afraid of where it leads. I am Daphne Wilson. I always have been, even when the world knew me by another name. And I always will be, wherever this path takes me next." She closed the journal and looked around at the home she had created, a space where she could simply be. Outside these walls lay a world that sometimes understood and sometimes didn't, that occasionally embraced and occasionally rejected. But in here, and increasingly out there too, she existed fully as herself. The navy blue pencil skirt and white blouse hung in her closet now, souvenirs of a pivotal moment. She would keep them, perhaps forever, as reminders of the journey. But they were no longer armor needed for protection. They were simply clothes, her clothes, part of a wardrobe that expressed rather than disguised who she was. Tomorrow would bring work calls and errands, friends and family, the ordinary rhythms of a life lived authentically. For tonight, Daphne simply savored the quiet joy of being home, being whole, being herself. The transformation that had once seemed impossible had become her everyday reality. The journey wasn't over. Perhaps it never would be, but the hardest steps had been taken. Daphne Wilson moved through the world now as herself, documents aligned with identity, outside matching inside, past integrated with present. And that first humiliation at airport security? It had become just another story, one small chapter in a much larger, richer narrative that continued to unfold with each passing day.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!